You're listening to Crosstalk, Conversations with Kurtis. Crosstalk, Conversations with Kurtis is brought to you by...
You know, there are few relationships more solid than the bond between a man and his barber. For years, I've gotten my cut with Gene the Barber. Gene has been cutting my hair for more than 20 years. Call him directly at 240-687-7253 and make an appointment. Gene the Barber, 240-687-7253.
A Squared Home and Office Solutions is the go-to source for home or office network and audiovisual solutions. We can help with smart home integration, wireless networking, media rooms, security systems, and more. We will link technology to your lifestyle seamlessly. Visit homeandofficesolutions.com for more info.
You're listening to Crosstalk, Conversations with Kurtis. Here's your host, Kurtis Cross.
Welcome to the conversation today. This is Conversations with Kurtis. I am your host, Kurtis Cross, and as always, I'm excited to be here with you today. Today, we're going to get into a great conversation, but first, I want to thank our sponsors, Gene the Barber and A Squared Home and Office Solutions. Be sure to connect with me socially at Kurtis Talks on Instagram and Twitter, and of course, you can go to www.kurtistalks.com. Also, take a listen to our other podcasts, Crosstalk, The Kurtis and Paula Show, a lifestyle, love, marriage, and parenthood podcast. You'll hear about the day-to-day goings-ons of me and Paula. Take It to You with Turner and O'Neill, a local national sports podcast hosted by me along with coaches Steve Turner and Casey O'Neill. Ramblin' Teachers is a local teacher talk podcast hosted by a few friends of the Crosstalk family. And of course, we want you to check in on the Midnight Truck Stop and 911 Radio. Most of those podcasts are hosted by Big T and the Blue Knight. They are where our guest is from out in LA with 911 calls, truckers, law enforcement officers, and a host of interesting guests. All of these podcasts can be found on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast content. Once again, you're listening to Crosstalk Conversations with Kurtis, and I thank you for joining today's conversation. Today, I'd like to welcome to the conversation Eva Vennari. Eva, how's it going today?
Fantastic. It's going well.
And you are in beautiful, sunny California. Is that correct?
Los Angeles proper, right in the heart of it.
All right. So, Eva, I'm going to introduce our folks to you, our listeners, and our viewers. Eva is the founder and CEO of the Elevate Institute, a cutting-edge health coaching firm specializing in empowering driven professionals to take charge of their body and their health. I'm going to stop there, Eva. This is your show. Talk to the people about what you do and what Elevate Institute is all about.
I'm more interested in telling them what I can do for them. So
let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, there is, and I've been there. I've been so busy. I've had the full-time job. I've been raising the kids on my own. I have had the side hustle, and you don't have time to be sick. You don't have time to slow down. And especially if you're like me, where you don't like to, your endeavors, you want them to be successful the first time, you don't like to repeat, going from doctor to doctor to doctor to try to find out what's going on and have them tell you, can't find anything on the x-ray. Everything's within normal range on the blood tests. Okay, great. That's good news. It's all in your head. That's when you have things like chronic fatigue, maybe some anxiety, some insomnia, things like that do not show up on tests like you want them to for concrete evidence of what's going on. So when you don't feel right, you come to me and I can help course correct the body so that those things dissipate and you can get back to living your life.
How does that work?
You know, it's scientific and it's been around for a very, very long time. I base all of my recommendations. I'm a mineral balancing specialist, and I base all of my recommendations on the secrets I unlock from your hair.
You talked to me about that before, and I'm going to tell you, you cannot stop there. Please continue.
So everything that we take in, from what we eat to what we drink, what sits against our skin all day long, whatever we breathe in, there's no doorman anywhere that says, hey, you're a toxin, stay out. Everything goes in. The body uses in priority what it prefers to make more, better you, and sometimes not so better, depending on what you eat. You know, we are what we eat, they say. So your body will go through and the process of creating those new cells every night, rejuvenate. And the leftover gets stuck into the soft tissue, and that's your hair. So when we see hair, you ever seen a tree that's been cut at a cross section and you see the rings?
Yep.
Yeah, those rings are evidence of what happened. You can tell how arid and how wet a season was for that tree, hair on a much smaller time scale. We can see how your body's processing out. It's like a trash report. How is it getting rid of things so that we can actually see, not directly, it's an indirect measure of how the body's processing food, what your metabolism is, how you're processing sugar, if you have enough energy to squeeze out all those toxins that you're exposed to. Because guess what? If you don't have the energy to squeeze them out, it stores them in your fat cells and other places that you don't want. So,
Right.
yeah. So this is a process of seeing without seeing what's inside the body based on what you're getting rid of. And that's very insightful.
How did you get to this place, though?
Hot mess I was.
Uh-oh. Talk to me.
So I named off a few things that are the common incurables, if you will, that you hear from doctors: the chronic fatigue, anxiety, insomnia, depression, fibromyalgia. That's the top 5. And it's usually they run together in circles, but in other words, in a circle, they're common to be clumped together. But I had more than that. I had 30 different symptoms and diagnoses, including osteoarthritis and hypothyroidism, short-term memory loss, IBS. These are more of the advanced. Chronic headaches. Daily, they were like migraines, but by definition, you can't have a daily migraine. But guess what? I was having something that sure felt like a migraine daily.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and that place of being completely burned out, working in an industry that was a dog eat dog world. I was in construction for 16 years. Before that, I was in information technology. Constant change, constant burnout of I need to be on the go, on the move. And I mentioned earlier, I raised my 2 girls, which are now adults, on my own. That's a lot of stress. And even if you're not, that's a perfect storm. But I know that being a parent, one of 2, you argue about how you're going to raise your kids. That's stress too. So
Sure.
we all have a level of stress. And so here's the thing. I kept going to the doctor, and the doctor would take my blood tests, and he'd say, oh, everything looks fine with the normal range. And I says, time out. I'm experiencing symptoms. What's wrong with me? And so he or she would ask, what's going on in your life? And whatever I had going on, that was the excuse.
Of course.
Right. So you go through that 10, 20, in my case, 30 years worth of excuses. And I said to myself, well, doesn't everybody have a level of stress that they need to deal with? And why is my body different? And that was the question. So when I asked that question, I pursued an answer that had nothing to do with taking pharmaceuticals or needing to be cut on, surgical. Of course, some doctors were like, well, we can do a hysterectomy. I don't want to have a hysterectomy. That's very common. It messes up your hormones for the rest of your life and causes additional problems above and beyond just, simply having thyroid issues. So I didn't like the solutions that doctors were offering me, and I wanted something holistic. I wanted something that would work once and for all, and I wanted something that was sustainable.
Oh, that's it. But
that's how that was the desire.
Right. So to hear you say that means that there's an entire group or a large group of folks out there who are accepting what they're hearing and going through some things that they might not have to go through. They haven't found their way to you. They haven't found their way to what it is they could seek outside of what we're being told, outside of popular opinion, outside of, okay, I'm looking on this graph. If it shows this and it shows this, then it must mean this is the solution. But, I've been told and I've heard, and I love this statement, that many roads lead to Rome. You weren't okay on a one-way street going down a traditional medical path.
It was not. Yeah. It wasn't clear to me what the answer was. I just knew that it was not what I described as being, medicine. And I think there's a lot of misconception thinking that whatever a doctor says, you need to take hook, line, and sinker and just believe it wholeheartedly and take the advice on as law. And I questioned that. And of course, I made my doctors very frustrated to the point of I ran through 10 different doctors in the course of a year because I wasn't willing to accept answers that didn't follow in line with my belief system. My values are clear. So yeah, you can question, there are plenty of other doctors out there who do have an understanding. I just ran through so many of them. There had to be some level of resistance for me to find the answer that I was seeking that led me down this path. And once I found it, it was just like a light bulb moment. Oh my God, this makes sense to me. I just kept thinking there must be some way to enlist the body to do what it's designed to do. It's meant to heal itself. We keep hearing that all the time. The body heals itself if you give it what it needs. Well, it needs more than just sleep and rest and water. It needs, you know, minerals.
Right.
but we don't know that. We're not taught that. So I had to overcome this learning curve of what does the body need? And then once you find that out, well, then you have to give it what it needs based on what. And the testing part of it in the hair mineral analysis, that's what gave me the concrete evidence. I give my body what it needs based on the hair and mineral test. It did indeed reverse the signs of premature aging, which is all of that's a full collection of all of those different symptoms and diagnoses. I've rid myself of all of those things naturally.
Eva, here's the thing. You've talked about 20 years, 30 years, this, that, and the other. You don't look like you can tell that story because you don't look. If we're talking 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you're like 7 years old, maybe. So, we don't have to tell our age, but clearly something is working there. Talk to me about, so I read over your bio. Fascinating information. There's a million directions we can go in here. Talk to me about all medicine is good at the right time.
Yeah, it's not so much doctors are bad and holistic medicine is good. I don't believe in that. There's a purpose to everybody's function. And I think the issue happens where we don't get a result of integrity that is long lasting and actually solves the problem when you have one party or the other that oversteps their boundaries of expertise. So that's a very politically correct way of saying go to the right doctor for the right thing. So if you have a car accident and you've broken a bone or you have an acute issue going on, it needs to be addressed now. Stop the bleeding, right? Reset a bone, need surgery for whatever reason, cancer, those things, go to the doctor.
Right.
When it comes to healing, that's a whole nother story. We often think doctors are healing. Doctors are meant to fix.
Right. There you go.
Band-Aid, right? Make the bleeding stop. Once you're done there, get out of the hospital as fast as you can and recuperate elsewhere, because healing does not happen in a place where there's trauma.
Wow, fascinating. And so we have to redirect our ideology to understand that, because most of us, as Dave Matthews would say, are ants marching. We go there, we get fixed, we get out. And, as a sidebar, we get out as quickly as we can because, like you said, that can't occur where there's a place of trauma, the healing part at least. But also we have pharmaceuticals and doctors who need to get the next patient in there so that they can, right? Tell me I'm wrong. Eva, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Right.
I can't.
Right. So you have, it sounds like you will acknowledge the medical profession where it needs to be and for what it does. But I think we've given them a resume that is is vastly greater than the lane we should put them in. Does that sound correct to you?
Absolutely. And I think there is a level of frustration on all sides after doing tons and tons of interviews with doctors, with practitioners, with patients, who I can't call a patient because I'm not a licensed practitioner, so I call them clients. Right. But when I talk to each of these different areas, doctors, especially if they're taking insurance, they have a limited amount of time with their clients. They don't have time to delve into the problems that a practitioner who does holistic work can, or that's just part of their business model. They actually listen to what's going on with their client and they create a holistic resource for them. So the frustration on doctors' sides in the United States especially is that, look, we only have 10 minutes with each person, if that. And oftentimes when we say, hey, I see what's going on, your blood sugar is creeping up, do you want to learn more about what you can do to avoid diabetes? People will say, nah, I'll deal with that and take the pill when the time comes. Then you've got the exact opposite, where the doctor is being asked by the patient, hey, I can tell that something's going on with my body. Should I be concerned about, and should I change my lifestyle to prevent diabetes? And this is just an example, but as a subject matter. And the doctor might say, nah, we'll worry about that when you get there. So neither option is good, and it's frustrating for both. But if we're asking the right person, doesn't that both examples sound like we're barking up the wrong tree?
Right.
For
so
answer.
Where's that middle lane? Where's that common ground?
Well, it requires being really honest on both sides. If a doctor doesn't want to do anything but prescribe prescriptions, then they need to find clients or patients who
Right.
only want to take the pills. So it's like a really good marriage and understanding who you're talking to. So if you are frustrated with your doctor because he's not listening, you're barking up the wrong tree. And so it's now a matter of finding out, where should you start? Where else should you look? And for me, it came down to this one crucial thing, because I kept looking like we're taught to do: hunt and kill, right? Whatever it is that's wrong, got a headache, I'm going to hunt down the fix, Advil, or Excedrin, take that and it's gone. That's the hunt and kill method of healthcare. But if you're looking at what's creating the space for that said headache to occur, now you're looking at a holistic practice. So look for holistic practitioners who have had what you had, have what you have,
Right.
and now no longer have it. And you like the way that they've bridged that gap and made the solution for themselves. So that's the framework to find a new solution. It doesn't mean you fire your doctor like I did. I kicked mine to the curb, all of them. I've had to find new ones that understood my philosophy as I learned more about holistic medicine. But, if you like your doctor for your regular acute stuff, fine. I've worked with plenty of people who have their main doctor and they work with me on the side. They're almost afraid to tell their doctor what they're doing with me. But it's funny how when they get the blood test for the update of, gee, I don't know why, but you need to take half the dosage that you did of this thyroid, synthroid medicine now, because something's changed in your body. Interesting.
Enter Eva. Enter Eva. So how do we get folks to move in that direction? I mean, that's a tremendous undertaking when all we've known, for our entire life is you go into a medical facility, they give you something for it, you do your physical therapy, or you take this pill and you're good. But you're talking to me, it sounds like, and to our listeners and viewers, you're talking about something, as you said, holistic, but something that's forever, not something that a pill wipes away and in 13 days you feel it again.
Right.
So how do we navigate away from that model, or can we?
Well, maybe it's not so much a navigate away. Maybe it's, and I'm going to get a little bit woo-woo with my words here for a minute. Maybe it's we expand the container of what we know about healthcare, and we decide that both belong there.
Okay.
So here's the other thing that really astounded me in my podcast interviews with doctors in other countries was, especially Europe. They said, look, when we go to medical school there is no distinction of this is holistic, this is natural, and this is traditional. Somehow we got screwy in the United States. So there, if they want to practice medicine, they get to practice whole medicine. When they come here, if they want to transfer their license, they have to restrict themselves or give up their opportunity to be an MD, and they become a practitioner. And that is a reality right now. I would love to see that be resolved, to be that healed, so that we can actually do that here in the States. And I think we're on that path, but I probably won't live long enough to see the change.
Well, here's the thing, though, is if that path doesn't produce as much revenue as the traditional path, is anyone going to look at it?
Well,
and I'm not shunning that at all.
No,
you are
no.
talking my game.
Well, here's the thing. When people get to the point where they realize that medication does not work and that it's actually destroying. So here's I'm going to tell one story to finish that answer. So, for every this is a stat, for every one medication you start today, in 1 year, you'll have 3 more medications prescribed to you for the side effects of that one medication. And that just seems to balloon out over the course of years. Point in case in point, I'm dyslexic. So
there you go.
Case in point, I heard it right, came out wrong. So my ex-husband, we had been divorced for 12 years. And right after I became certified in mineral balancing science, I was on the phone with him, and he starts complaining to me about all of these things he had going on: heart prolapse, hepatitis C, iron toxicity, and he had just been diagnosed with diabetes. He's complaining. And he says, I've got all these things going on. I don't know what to do. The doctor says this and that and the other. And I says, you know what? I just became certified, and I explained to him what I was doing. And I said, why don't you send me some of your hair? We'll figure it out. We'll get you sorted. And he laughed at me and he goes, nah, my doctors have me. I'm on medication.
Right.
I don't need your help. 2 weeks later, I'm getting that phone call from the hospital. He's passed away. He had a massive heart attack. Okay, did I say 45 years old? I had to sort out his personal effects. He had 17 medications in his closet.
Right.
17 different medications at 45 years of age. That shouldn't happen. And he could have made different decisions, but because he listened to the doctor hook, line, and sinker and did not question anything, he depleted his body. Chemical drugs deplete your immune system, they deplete your overall body. Anyways, I get that point out of the way to say, look, we need to educate ourselves. We are our own best advocate. And just because somebody with a plaque that says, something to us about you need to be on this medication for the rest of your life,
Right.
well, the body has the ability to heal itself. So maybe we should question that.
Wow. Fascinating. So again, I mean, I could stay in your bio all day because there's a ton of stuff here. You know, complementary medicine,
Yeah.
chronically fatigued high performers. Who are you helping?
Well, people who are in the state that I was. So we're talking about executive or even just in a corporation. Oftentimes we're asked to press ourselves up against the wall energetically to get the job done for the company. Somehow we've forgotten that there's boundaries and we're supposed to clock out, go home at the end of the day. So when you're pushing yourself that far and you don't have time to breathe and you're not taking a moment to do more than just take that coffee to get the exercise or the extra adrenaline push that you need to get through your day, that's who I'm helping, is those people who are stressed out beyond belief. When I test their hair, they're the ones who are the most depleted.
And do we have to redefine what success looks like, what we're expected to do? Because it sounds like, the model we have of the way we operate. And by the way, you mentioned those in the medical field who want to practice overseas don't have the boundaries that we have here, because here in the U.S. we can't get out of our own way.
Right.
We have all the answers. This is the way it's been done. This is the way we're going to do it. And yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's, beyond what you and I are talking about. I think that's probably the biggest human issues that we cannot get out of our own way. We know what's good for us and no one else could possibly know what's good for us unless they have that plaque on the wall and they tell me to take this and do this. Well, I'm going to listen blindly. Well, you've seen that, a million times, but do we have to redefine what success is, redefine roles are, redefine what the end result is, what makes us happy? I think far too often people don't define their personal and professional goals and they're just marching along to the next paycheck, to the next raise, to the next cost of living increase and all of that. But to what end? And are we happy with that? Because the absence of knowing what makes us happy, what do we gravitate to? We always gravitate to. So I meet you, Eva, at a social event. We're going to a happy hour. It just happens to be that our company's mix. And what's the first thing I ask you? What do you do? Because that defines you. Do we need to redefine that?
Do we need to redefine what people find as success and what people redefine or redefine what people think of as happiness?
Absolutely.
Those things?
That's the question. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that there is a trend. Just in the same way, I'm a member of a couple of different associations, and one of them is Women in Technology International. And we were talking yesterday on the subject of the new management, new leadership in business. And it's changing. It's going from that hierarchical system to self-management and guess what? Integrity, which is really no different than the integrity of being responsible for our own healthcare. So it's now traversing many different industries. This holistic idea of personal responsibility for self and for others, it is a thing that is growing. It's growing as a conversation, and I really love this direction that we're going into because it's making room for people to expand. I talked about that container. Expand your container of what you believe is medicine. Expand that container of what you believe is happiness. Make room for these new ideas, because I think the problem that we have right now is we're afraid that if we don't do what we're told to do, we will lose something precious. If it's not our life, it's the then it's kaputs, right? But if we're talking about something where we don't die and we still have to be here every day, then it's the job. The job loss leads to the home loss, and then you're losing family, and then it's an ever, well, what if that happens? And if we just get a hold of that fear and say, wait a minute, I need to live my life from a place of happiness and joy and gratitude. And that will change the perspective. So I'm finding a lot of emotional issues are tied up with the stress that people feel when they come to me. And it always comes back to finding the happiness.
So the hair analysis, how blown away are people when you can really identify where all of this comes from and you can chart a path for them to reach some health success, not traditional success, but the health success where you can help them move beyond and graduate from what their ailments are?
This is what I hear most commonly. I'll be done with the consultation, which I basically share my screen and I scribble all over their hair test. If you want to see an example of one, I can show you. But I share my screen, and I show them what it looks like, what their hair sample test results look like. And here is an example of one that I've done recently. So It's really just charts.
Let me stay right there. Let me see if I can make your screen bigger so everyone can just see you. Uh-oh, no, that's just me.
Other way.
I can put you in there, though, I'm sure. We'll figure this out. That's me and you.
Yep.
Well, no, I don't want that. I want her bigger than me.
There you go. Yay.
All right, so now folks can see that, yes.
Yeah,
that's
so
a hair analysis.
That's the result of a hair test. And so we're seeing nutrient minerals across the top, and we're seeing toxic metals here down at the bottom, and some ratios, which gives us some more nuanced information about how relationships and the relationship of those minerals determine our energy, or our vitality. So once I make sense of that, and then we look over the different symptoms. In fact, I'll do this simultaneously. It takes about an hour and a half to go through a consultation. Sure. And so I'll take those notes that I've scribbled on a test like that and their symptoms, and I'll say, well, based on this, I can tell you're experiencing that. And then I look at the notes of what they told me that they were going through in their intake. It matches. And so they'll say something like, I've always known there was something that was off, but nobody has ever been able to put their thumb on it the way that you have.
Wow. So how do they find you? How do people do this?
Well, it's easy to find me now. I mean, if they're listening to this, they can go to my website.
Right. We're going to send you to the elevateinstitute.com, of course.
That's it. Yeah. And there's a couple of things you can engage with me on that site. The very first thing you'll see is Reveal It to Me Now. It's a free Chinese face reading. So I can see with your selfie. Everybody takes selfies these days. So send one to me and I'll put my eyes on your face and I'll share with you if I see anything serious going on with your heart, your liver, your kidneys, and the circulation system. If you're even living in your purpose, I'll be able to see all of that. If you're ready for a conversation, though, and you want to talk more about your situation, because everybody's solution is as individualized as the thumbprint, then you can schedule your 20-minute consultation with me on my calendar. It's on the Contact Me page.
All right. So I'm going to go through some bullet points here, and you open this can, so we're going to go here. So talk to me. You've had a bunch of appearances. I'm not the first podcast you've done. Talk to me about the following: Badass Business Women TV. Talk to me. How was that? So you're a certified badass.
That's what she said. Yeah, it was. I always say when I'm in a networking group, how glad I am to be there, because it's a stage for me to be loud about this message. And I think holistic medicine is really a difficult thing to convey. Many practitioners will talk about how they do something. They don't necessarily talk about how they can help a person. Okay. So the message gets lost. And I've been able to grow and sustain a business that on paper, and even in person, I'm proud of it, but it's considered successful. It's a multinational business. I work at it from this is my dining room table.
It's a great backdrop.
Thank you. Yes. And I'm a manufacturer of near infrared sauna panels. And so that process of being a manufacturer and shipping multinational is what was part of our conversation on that episode of Business Badass. So
All right. Sue Talk presenter.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Tell
Okay,
us about it.
you know what TED Talks are?
Right, of course.
Okay, so this is a spinoff of that. It's women in leadership, business owners, and it's all about. In my case, I wanted to talk about how my personality revealed itself in childhood that has initially annoyed many people, including my parents.
Okay.
Turned out to be my strongest assets as a business owner, and in what I do, the questioning of everything, the deciding that I can do things even when it looks impossible. It's like, I don't care if somebody says I can't do that. I'm going to go do it anyways. So anyway, that was my talk, the pause before the splash. But it
Mhm.
is a way to express how business women in leadership roles are being successful in their endeavors.
Excellent. What does a day look like for Eva?
Oh, so pleasant. I woke up the other day and I'm like, wow, this is the longest I have been in any one job. And of course, this
Mhm.
isn't a job, but most I haven't been able to wake up and feel so excited to get to my day, or at least relaxed enough to enjoy getting up and going through my day. Um, Most jobs would only last a year and a half to 3 years. And so
Mhm.
for me to have a business that has now lasted 10 years and I still want to expand it and enjoy it and be a part of its movement, that's really, I love the creative aspect. I get to take my first and best energy and apply it to my business and then be as creative as I like to and decide what I want to implement. And that's really every moment of every day. I'm looking at, what can I do to move my business forward so that I can be of service to other people?
Shamanism. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. Shamanism is essentially a really good link from one to the other because it's all about being in service. Um, it was a development of soft energy skills, if you will call. We all know the five senses of our human body. We also have five spiritual senses. And the articulation of the information that was coming in to me became more present and clear and useful as I went through the process of clearing out and rebalancing my body. So that was a side effect of becoming healthy, was I became more whole and more able to heal people remotely, looking at their chakra centers, their core, their auric fields. This is really woo stuff, but if you have somebody's talking to you and they're like, I am having a real problem with articulating what it is that I need to say. While they're speaking, I will get the color of the throat chakra in my mind's eye. And sometimes I can read that energy and help them heal whatever is stuck in their throat chakra or whatever chakra. This is just an
All right.
example. And within moments of this conversation, the energy clears and now they're able to speak. That's just an example. These are things happen all the time. I've healed a bunch of different issues, including haunted homes.
Okay. Okay. You didn't tell me we were going down that road. All right. I didn't know
Well,
that.
shamanism comes with mediumship in many
Okay.
cases, right? And so you're dealing with energies of those left behind. And I had a house healing that I did remotely in Texas. So I'm here in LA and I'm on the phone with my friend in Texas, and he says, uh, a year after his wife died, in the upstairs bedroom, he's trying to sell the house. And it's
Mhm.
not selling. People are coming through. This beautiful home. I love this home. And they'd leave and they would never contact him again. He's trying to sell this damn house. And I said to him, I says, it might have something to do with the energies that are left there in that master bedroom upstairs. And he goes, you think it is? And so I asked him, I says, do you want me to go ahead and clear that out? And he's a little long winded. And so he answered the yes in like several sentences, but I
Mhm.
heard the yes. So I
Right.
took the permission. And while he's talking, I did the healing on the house. And by the time he finally said, yeah, so go ahead and do it, I said, all right, it's done. You'll get an offer on the house in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks' time, I heard in my metaphysical ear, right? I
Right.
heard the ding, kind of similar to what a sound the subway makes when it sends out the what's that called? A ping, right?
Right.
And a week after that, I received the phone call. And he says, I didn't want your head to get too big and call on the day that I received an offer on the house,
Right.
but I received an offer last week. And I said, yeah, I know.
Just
So
waiting for the call.
Yeah, it's just the experiences like that. At first, I did not know what to do with them. I have since learned the container, how to come to service with somebody. It's kind of like knowing that you've got to go out in the world in the day and do a bunch of chores. And when you leave the front door and you look at the car that you're going to use to do your chore list, it is exactly equipped with everything that you need that day. And it does change dynamically every day for what you have ahead of you. You just don't always know what that is. But Spirit does. And so they create the container for you to be able to help.
What's next for Eva?
Well, this year, I am focused on corporate wellness. And of course, I cannot have the ghost story talk in corporations, but
It's a good story, though.
It is a fun story. When we talk about high stress, anxiety, and the pressures that COVID is putting people through right now, it is extraordinary. And I feel the need to be there for those individuals and those companies, because if we don't support the companies that drive the commerce of America, well, we're going to be in deep trouble. So these people need to continue to be able to do their job and continue the commerce so that we can bring our visions to the world, whatever they are, whether it's a new product or a service or toilet paper. Seriously.
Right. Eva, how can these folks connect with you? How can my listeners, how can my viewers connect with you, get into your fold, and see what works for them?
I'm often found on Facebook, and I am the only Eva Vennari in the world, so that's damn easy. Search for me.
You.
Yep. Connect with me. I have a Facebook group. It's called True Holistic Healing, and I leave tips in there for how you can really understand holistic healing for you. I give tips and tricks, things like, how to use your nonstick pan so that you don't absorb aluminum. Aluminum is the main reason why we have Alzheimer's in old age, right? It's one of the big problems with our brain. So you can avoid that. And of course, being on the program, you can get rid of the aluminum. We can watch it leave the body. But these are the things you can do. It's preventative care. It's holistic care. Lots of interesting tips and tricks there. Again, it's True Holistic Healing Club.
True Holistic Healing Club. That's a Facebook group. You can find her at www.theelevateinstitute.com, at Eva Vennari. And guess what? Like she said, she's the only one. So that's Instagram, that's Facebook, that's wherever you find her. Also at the Elevate Institute. Eva, this has been wonderful.
It's been a pleasure.
Let's do it again. But in the meantime, I want you to hang on tight, because I'm going to close out the show and I'm going to join you backstage. That's
Yay!
What we're going to do. All right, talk to you in just a minute. I'll close out the show.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank Eva for joining us. That will do it for today's episode of Conversations with Kurtis. Be sure to connect with me socially at Kurtis Talks on Instagram and Twitter, and www.kurtistalks.com. You can also email with me and email me podcast ideas. If you want to be a guest, if you know someone who needs to come to this table, let me know. Send an email to kurtisandpaula@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out our podcast family, The Kurtis and Paula Show, Take It to You with Turner and O'Neill, Ramblin' Teachers, and of course, the Midnight Truck Stop and 911 Radio, hosted by Big Tony and the Blue Knight out there on the left coast, the West Coast. You'll find our family of podcasts just about anywhere you get your podcast content. Thanks for joining the conversation today. Feel free to spread the word. And as always, thank you, Khadijah. We'll see you next time.
Crosstalk, Conversations with Kurtis can be heard on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Music, and just about anywhere podcasts can be found.
You know, there are few relationships more solid than the bond between a man and his barber. For years, I've gotten my cut with Gene the Barber. Gene has been cutting my hair for more than 20 years. Call him directly at 240-687-7253 and make an appointment. Gene the Barber, 240-687-7253.
A Squared Home and Office Solutions is the go-to source for home or office network and audiovisual solutions. We can help with smart home integration, wireless networking, media rooms, security systems, and more. We will link technology to your lifestyle seamlessly. Visit homeandofficesolutions.com for more info.